Sit there and you see this little gray thing with the red blinky light? I just need you to look at the red blinky light. Hey there guys, and welcome to Matt's Garage in part 9 of my Neoru build series here. We're just going to go right from where we left off in part 8, working on the cowl vent cover there. Right, Reese Bear? And Reese Bear's here helping me out again today. Okay guys, well I'm just working on kind of making the front lip for the cowl vent panel in here, and this one's just not working out because it's not tall enough in here. So even if I reshape it to match the angle, it's not going to come up to meet the hood properly. Of course I'm still going to use the louvers, but I'll just be cutting that off. So what I got here is actually the hood off my old 240. I sold the car and the guy never took the hood, so it's kind of a junk hood. I already tried to sell it, no one wants it, so I'm going to repurpose it here for my cowl vent cover. Well, these things tend to be a bit of a brain teaser, figuring out how all the bends are going to affect the ultimate shape of it, and I'm not sure I haven't messed up here, because I do have a bad curve going, but I think I can work it out. I figured I better do a little update. So here's how that panel is coming along. Not too bad, but I had hoped to progress a little quicker on it than I am, and I still have quite a bit of work to do to actually fit it to the hood, because that's got to end up being a perfect body line at the right height and follow this edge perfectly. And then that's just the front edge of the panel. And then I'm going to add the louvers in behind it. And then that's still only half the panel. I still got to finish out the ends. So I got a long ways to go. You can see up here I have a panel off of a 94 Nissan truck actually. And I'm just going to cut this little piece out. That's the little dip for the wiper arm to go in. So that'll be over there. Well, I've been out of the shop for a few days here. I had to go and get some parts actually. I lost this trim piece for here somewhere along the build, and had to go get a new one, or a new used one, so that it will line up with this. That's the thing with this panel here. It's proving to be a little bit challenging and time consuming, just because it lines up with the hood, lines up with the height of the hood and the gap of the hood, and then it lines up to the windshield and lines up to the fenders. So the fenders and the hood have to be aligned perfectly with each other, and then it lines up to this trim as well. So yeah, that's where I'm at there, but I am getting there with that. And to save a little time back, I decided to get myself a new door for here, since I had to go and get a piece of trim anyways, and that door is all rusty. It would take me days to patch it up. It's got a bunch of big dents in it too, so I went ahead and got this beautiful rust-free, dent-free door here to work with. I still of course have to do a couple of little modifications, because the Neoru's not quite a factory car anymore to say the least, but it'll save me all the time of doing the rust repair on it, and I'm real happy with that. I actually got that off of the same guy I got my neon engine off of, the 2-liter single overhead cam engine that I used to run in it. I got that as a loose engine used off of the same guy that I bought that door off of. and I got that engine back in 2011. So he didn't really remember me, but I remembered him, and he's a nice dude, and gave me a good deal. I also got a power mirror off of him because I broke that. You may remember off-roading a few years ago. I swacked it on a tree. So I've been working away on the Neoru here, and I decided this shop stool was not working for me anymore. I've had it for a very long time, probably 10 years, and it's just all compressed and very hard to sit on, very uncomfortable. So I had a bit of a brainwave here. That is a neon seat base on there, and I just made some brackets to hold it up here. Oh, flip it! See, I just made some brackets to weld it onto the shop stool base there. The shock's worn out, it doesn't work anymore, so I just have a hose clamp on there, but it does still spin, so it's really comfortable. I've got that vent panel kind of fastened in there on each end with vice grips, and what I've done is I've kind of cut this back to integrate that into it. You can see that, and I also kind of hammered it down so that it slants back in, because that's how the cover is going to be. It's going to slant down from the hood height. And so although this still looks kind of ugly along the edge here, I have the height pretty well where I want it all the way across. There's a couple little low spots that I can fine tune later. But the idea here is I've cleaned up the edge of the hood so I can spot it to this hood. This is just a mock-up hood, and I can spot all along there. That'll hold a perfect body line there as I weld in this panel, which will prevent it from warping. Okay guys, well that doesn't look pretty because there's a seam sealer along the edge of the hood on the bottom side, so bubbles up my weld as I go, but that's not really the point. They're just temporary welds, and as you can see, I've got a pretty nice body line all the way along now, so when I weld in that piece of louvering there, it's going to hold that line, and then when I grind these welds off, I'll have a nice fitting part, hopefully. Okay guys, so on the louvers here, I also flagged out that lip on the back edge here, and I removed the factory tabs, the mounting tabs that were there. I'll have to add some mounting tabs back later, but they'll be in different spots, and there'll just be a rubber seal that goes along this edge when it's all done, to kind of, so it doesn't rub on the windshield is all. But yeah, we're gonna get this fitted in here. So there that is, all tacked in there. It's not really a thing of beauty, but it's gonna work. You can see I'm not done, but I've got it all tacked now, and I've filled in those gaps a little bit, and I actually adjusted this end back a little bit since the last clip. I had measured from that edge of that slat to the hood, and it was a little off end to end, so I fixed that up, and now it matches up with the black line on the window a little better too. I just turned off a really good song to show you guys this, so you better appreciate it. Anyways, I got that drive pulled up out of there. Had to fish it up with a coat hanger. There's not much room in there, and got that bolted on. And now I'm going to cut that divot out of the Nissan cowl panel there, and just fit that around there, and then join it into the rest of the panel. You can see why it would need a divot. It's going to sink right into the cowl vent panel here, and in fact that Nissan divot might not be deep enough. I just figured I'd try to use it first, but so here is the part. You can see that nice stamped divot in there for the wiper arm to kind of go down into. There, I just removed the wiper arm again and retrimmed it, so you can see can see it's got that reinforced hole in it and everything there. So I'm just working on making a template for the metal piece that's going to extend this edge up. It's going to be a little hard to show you on camera, but I've basically got this cardboard template cut. Okay guys, I made this up out of metal, actually it's neon metal, and get this welded on here. Okay guys, I went ahead and bought this extra long burr for my router tool here, and I'm just hoping that'll allow me to use it more often. See, I'll be able to get all along here now, and it's faster for a lot of situations. And okay, well you can see how that all turned out. I got that all dressed up in there and it's ready to install in the car. So basically I drew some lines on the windshield here so I wouldn't have to keep fitting the wiper blade. So it's going to sit in there about like that, and then I just have to cut the excess material off and join it into the rest of the panel. Okay guys, well last night I got this piece made up to go in here, and I just have to form it down to meet this one in here. That's why there's some excess metal, so I'm going to do that right now, and then I just have that little corner piece left in there. I'm going to cut the trim off there. Okay guys, you can see I went ahead and marked that piece there, and I just have my little anvil here, and what I'm going to do here, I have some excess material here, but if I just hammer it down, it's going to pull all this metal here and wrinkle it all up. So what I'm going to do is first stretch the area on the anvil here, and I'll heat it up with the torch to make it more malleable, and just stretch that metal out basically with my hammer, just forcing the metal out. You can see it's rising up, it's expanding. Okay, so this is still quite rough, but you can see what I did there is I first stretched the metal so that I had enough metal to move down there without totally warping the rest of the panel. So you can see that panel, it has a little bit of warpage to it still, but I haven't finished working it all out. You can see I've definitely stretched metal out of there, and so I'm just going to go check it on the car now and see how close I'm getting. Okay guys, it's not perfectly lined up, but I think you get an idea of what I'm going for here. That's gonna, fasten right in there. Okay, well you can see how that's coming along, and I'm just gonna leave it like that. I'm not gonna solid weld it just yet because I want to get this corner piece in so it has some additional support. It's tight, but that edge is actually gonna fold down past that point right there. You can see I trimmed off that piece of trim there just at the edge of the fender, so the door will come up here too and meet it, and then this is gonna kind of curve in here, you can see that, and I trimmed this off to follow that curve back down to there, and presto, the corner is made. So that actually wasn't too bad at all. Just getting it tight to the fender was the only thing. I really want a tight line in there. I don't want a gap or anything there. And so now I'm just going to start welding it right there basically, and then just continue forming it down there. It's got a stretch down there yet, and as you can see, I got the corner all together here. I decided to just make a couple spots to the fender, which I can easily clean up later. It just ensures everything stays square as I'm welding and grinding. Well, here we go. I got it all welded up. Got this side all completed in. Actually, I like how this corner turned out better. I'm going to have to go over and just modify that one a little because it doesn't quite curve down as nice as this one. And yeah, I had a bit of a bump pop up there, so I heat shrank that. And just going to knock these welds down now quickly. Okay, well, you can see I've got all the welds ground smooth. I've gone around with the hammer and just, you know, picked out some high spots, reshaped this corner a bit nicer here, and that kind of thing. And I trimmed up the back edge here, so it's basically ready to fold a lip on it. There's a slight lip on the back of this edge here, and I just want to match it here. So, okay, well, we're going to take a break from the cowl cover there for a bit and work on doors. And this is a passenger door, the one I actually got the replacement door for the other day. You can see why I chose to get a rust-free replacement, because that's all the way across like that. So I have to gut all this out and swap it over to that door. And then once this door is completely gutted, what I'm going to do is just cut the front 4 inches off of it or whatever, because I actually have to add a piece in the bottom front corner here, so that the seal that sits in the Subaru jam will line up with this sealing surface on the edge here. So there we go. I cut both doors down like that, and now I can pick them up with one hand and easily fit them in there. Basically, the reason I did this is because this jam comes out in the corner more, so I have to add a little piece to the inside edge of the door so that the seal will have something to seal against. Okay guys, you can see I've got these doors mounted up, these little mock-up doors, and this gap was always a little ugly here, so that's nothing new. What I'm concerned about is how it seals, and so you can see that gap's pretty nice up there. The door would be about like that if it was latched. And so I'm actually wondering if there's enough metal here, because the metal's a little higher than this seal. Maybe I can bend that over. And so that's one of the reasons why I have a mock-up door, is I can see how that is there and how I might be able to fold that over. So I'm just going to do a little practice section on there and see if I can move it that much. So I am going to warm it up a little bit just to relax the metal, and then hopefully just hold my dolly under the edge and roll it around my dolly. So see, you can see it's actually bumping the seal now, so that's kind of where we want it. Actually, that seems quite doable. I overdid it a little bit right there, but I kind of wanted to see how much material was actually there and how far I could move it. Well, here we go. I just wanted to update you guys on I've got that template made for there, so I'm going to peel that off now and make that out of metal, so you can see how much I'm adding on there, and I was able to close it, and that is nice and even in the corner there now. So I'm just going to actually weld these together on the mock-up doors and just kind of spot them to the bottom corners of the mock-up doors there. That'll get the shape I need, and then I can just cut those couple spots off later and put them on the final doors. Okay guys, we're just going to kind of weld this on here, and I'm not going to put many welds on it to the door because I'm going to grind it back off the door at a later date. Okay, well you can see how I've welded in that corner modification there, and I'm still working at grinding the welds up smooth, and then for the wire harness, the Subaru one is a smaller grommet, so I filled that in too, and then tomorrow I'm just going to put a skim of filler over this all and then paint the jamb up actually so that this door's all ready to go on. You can see I adjusted the hole for the Subaru catch rod too. Okay guys, well naturally since I filmed this side it didn't turn out near as good as the other side. This just seems to be the way it works, but I kind of messed up and over hammered this area down, and then I couldn't get it back up again. Okay guys and gals, I'm just going to be doing that little bit of filler work on the inside corners of the doors. Might as well give you a couple tips on mixing filler. So first thing, these need to be mixed up a little bit too, this hardener tube. So what you do is you crack this loose about half a turn just so the air can get out, and then you go and you gently knead it. Because if you don't do this, what happens is you'll get a whole bunch of liquid out first, and then your hardener will end up being too thick and not proper, and it might not work properly either. So, and then you also want to stir the filler if you haven't used it for a while. It does take a while to settle out, but I hadn't used mine for a few months, so I just took this long screwdriver that I used to open the can and used it to stir it up. And then make sure that whatever you're mixing on and whatever you're mixing with is nice and clean. So I went and took some lacquer thinner, gun wash, whatever, and wiped that all off. I like to polish it with the Scotch pad, and then just wipe that off with a clean shop towel, and now we can begin mixing. So that'll probably be enough to get us going here. I'm sure it will take more than one application to get what we actually want. Now you don't want to stir it, you want to knead it again and push the air out of it, work the air out of it. The amount of hardener is not that critical in body filler actually. You can have it right from pale green to like Christmas tree green, and you know, like a real dark green, and the only difference is how quickly it will harden. So this is about a medium amount of hardener that I put in here, because I'm working in a colder room and I want to make sure it will harden up in a timely manner. You want to avoid having any unmixed areas, so just mix it more than you think it needs. So there we go, we got the filler roughed onto both. Now we're just going to clean up our putty knife and our mixing platter there. Well, as usual, I made a bigger mess of my hands than I intended to. A good thing I wear gloves. And I'll wipe the excess filler off on this chair. I actually have masking tape around the edge of this chair so I can peel it off once it builds up. So that's kind of what this was for, is my mixing chair, and then it kind of turned into my everything little fabrication bench and whatnot. There we go, and it's ready for the next round, which there'll definitely be a next round on this little project. It'll take at least 2 coats, or I might use some putty to finish it off. Okay, now look at this ugly job. No, really, that is pretty ugly, but we're going to clean it up a bit here real easy. So it's just kind of getting to the point of hardness. It's not quite yet, and if you catch it too soon, this doesn't work, and if you catch it too late, it doesn't work. Gotta know just when to do this. So you can shave that stuff right off. Gotta be careful. This is all, I almost let it go too long, but it's working. Just make sure there's none on the back side. Okay guys, I'm just going to be knocking this down with this 40 grit. I have this little block here just to aid in keeping this surface flat, so that's what we're going to be doing here. Okay guys, well there you go. I got it all roughed out in 40 grit there, and that took me about 18 minutes according to the camera. So now I'm going to go over it with 80 grit, 120 grit, 220 grit, 320 grit, then I'll prime it. Okay guys, I just did a step with the red lacquer putty here. This isn't really a quality product because it tends to shrink away forever, so you can see those defects later in the paint. But for something like this, it's great for fixing up some pinholes and little defects, hand scratches. If you're working on the outer body or on a project you're really fussy about, though, I wouldn't recommend using a whole lot of it. They make 2-part glazing putties that don't shrink after they're dry, and that's the way to go for that. So here we go. I'm getting way too fussy again, and I went back over and filled a couple imperfections that showed up through the primer. I'm not going to worry about repriming it. As you can see, it's black now, so just some rattle can on there, nothing special. That's why I didn't bother filming that process or anything. And there's a few dull areas where it kind of sunk into the filler, but that's kind of normal with spray cans. And again, this is just hidden in the jam area, so it looks plenty good enough. Just the fact that it's black is is pretty much good enough. Okay, well, I'm just getting ready to put the doors on there. Got this hinge finished up. I still had a bit of grinding and stuff to detail it up, but I got that done now. And then I'm just smoothing out where I had that weld seam and stuff, and a few hammer marks and stuff. So I put a little filler in there, get that sanded smooth, and then I'm going to paint this all up so that I can put the door on for final and run the wire in it and all that good stuff. So okay guys, I've got some masking here, and I'm just going to spray some quick primer on here. Okay guys, I just got this brush on seam sealer here, and I'm going to use that to seal up these seams here, this seam here, and this seam along here. So I'm just going to get busy with that. It's just a brush on stuff, and I'll get some on this. Never used this product before, so we'll see here. This was the brush that I used for the seam sealer last night, but I just shortened it. I just cut the bristles shorter because that seam sealer, I thought it was going to go on a lot thinner than it did. And anyways, the brush was too flimsy, so now I think this will work better. We'll try it out on the other side. Anyways, this looks pretty darn ugly, and I have applied seam sealer before and done a much better job, but not this kind. I've always applied the kind that comes in like a caulking tube, and it just goes on a little bit different. So, hey guys, I'm just using that same stuff as I used on the outer body. It's like an industrial enamel and an aerosol can, and it's actually pretty good stuff. Well, here it is in all its ugliness. I think I've said that a few times on this project, but yeah, the spray can I used for that kind of splattered on there quite a bit because it was almost empty. It was kind of an old one I had kicking around, and I just wanted to use it up in the jam here for that reason. So not really a big deal. I went ahead and taped over the harness here. It had a couple of scars in the casing. That's where that dirt came from. That's just on top of dried paint. That'll blow off. But yeah, I mean, it's going to look fine once the door's on. You won't see any of this anyways. And I actually have to go back over it a bit when I come and paint this area. And I got to put seam sealer along here still. So I'm going to be repainting this area and going back over there. So any of the areas that really show a bit and matter at all are going to be recoated. In this area here, you're not going to get to see in there really when the door's on. So as long as it's black and it's coated up so it doesn't rust or anything, I'm pretty well happy with that. Okay guys and gals, it's a silver door, and actually it lines up pretty good, better than the mock-up door was. I think I did do some work to the hinges there, so that's mainly why. And I've still got a curved that edge in there, and this fender corner has to curve in a little. You can see that gap there right now. It should be tight to the seal, but up there on against the roof it fits pretty nice. And show you, so both the doors on this car kind of have some spring to them, like they close just fine, but when you open them they kind of spring out like that, which I don't mind at all. The reason for it though, the reason for that is this. I took this from the Subaru, this catch rod, and you can see how skinny it is because I ground it down to kind of work in there. And I got it better on the other side because I welded the nut in there on the other side, and I did a bit more mock-up with it and just got a better angle on it. But I still had to grind that really thin on the other side, and it's still a little spring bound on that on the other side too. Okay guys, I just got to roll this edge over until it meets this trim piece. Basically you can see it's a little higher than it right now, so I have the material to move, and I'm just gonna support it right about there with my dolly from the underside with this nice sharp edge, and then just wrap around that with the hammer. And of course there's going to be some hammer marks and ripples down here, so I'll just need a skim of filler to finish it off, but that's just fine. I'm just going to give it a little heat with the torch too as I go, just to relax the metal a bit. Okay, well the fender's not bolted on down here, just in the middle and at the top, and I'm going to be taking the fender back off, and I can see when I hold it in, it all lines up and the gap's nice and all that. And mainly what I was concerned about was working this edge down to meet that trim piece, and you can see I've accomplished that all the way. And of course there's going to need to be a skim of filler put on there, but I just bent the fender to fit up to the door. And again, the fender's not right tucked in right now, but it should all line up perfect, and of course I'll be fine tuning it with some body filler, and I got to fill around this antenna here, so not a big deal, but you can just, I think you can get a idea of how the air is going to flow around that, and I shouldn't have any problems with wind whistles or anything. So yeah, I'm going to get this paint stripped off here now so it's ready for body filler. Okay, you can see I'm just working on the filler work on the left hand door jamb here. Got it roughed down to 80 grit, and I'm actually going to conclude part 9 right here so I can get it up this weekend. Reese Bear's back in the shop today. Just hanging out. Shop dog, aren't you? So say bye-bye to the people, and the people of YouTube. And make sure the people of YouTube are subscribed, right, Reese Bear? Very important that they're subscribed, and tune back in for part 10. So have yourself a great day. Thanks a lot for watching. Matt Scratch.